Hi, I'm in Spell to Read, step 2. I'm on page 20, 21, and 22. It's a pretty short step, but I just want to give you a couple thoughts to get you started if it's feeling overwhelming. Objective: prepare a non-reader or reluctant reader for success, build phonemic awareness with oral games, and develop correct directional orientation. So the first thing you want to start doing are talking about is learning phonograms. So the 70 basic phonograms include the consonants, the vowels, and the 2-letter, 3-letter, and 4-letter phonograms. If you live in a region that has very particular speech, then you might want to purchase this 70 basic phonogram CD so you can hear kind of how they're doing it. One of the biggest things that my children had to work on was phonemic awareness. I have one child who's always kind of had a stuffy nose kind of sound, so his spelling reflects how he hears the word. Because I say you hear a couple different ways. Like I hear myself speaking into my ears. I hear you speaking, but I'm also hearing kind of what's rattling around in my head, right? So it's not as simple as I said cat and he didn't write it, right? It's that learning how you hold your mouth, hold your tongue, drop your jaw, etc. So that's phonemic awareness. Even as a young child, kids are figuring out this magic code, these sounds that mean something. So I have a baby who, when I read to her, I don't read one winter night, high above the earth, water droplets began to freeze, right? I don't read that way. I go, one winter night, high above the earth, water droplets began to freeze and turn into snowflakes. So when she's sitting on her own, she's turning the pages going, because she's learning that these sounds mean something, and pretty soon she'll learn there's a code, like she says when her son drew a tree and she wrote T-R-E. He was like, oh my goodness, that code means something to my picture. So that's kind of like taking what you're hearing and putting it into this code, right? So she also has this like looking at how sounds are made. Both my kids are in speech therapy, and I noticed when they were in public school, the speech therapy focused mostly on what was happening in the classroom, like that testing idea. Whereas this speech therapist is looking at the whole person. They're looking at their understanding of things, their comprehension of what they're hearing. If their parietal lobe is having an issue, they might see a stove, a fridge, and a sink, but not realize they're in the kitchen, right? So the same thing for reading. They might see a dog and see the word, the code D-O-G, but they may not understand they're reading a story about this dog named Lassie, right? So there's all these different things you have to put together. So spelling first before reading and having to code all the pictures and things that go with it helps your brain to kind of get the idea of the code, and then you can add the understanding of the story. So she has you look in the mirror when you're talking, and the speech therapist having to do this too. It just blew my mind to think about how fast I speak, how I speak with an accent, and how I don't necessarily like really enunciate my words. So she said, watch your mouth say bid, bad, tin, tan, pin, pan. So you can see your jaw is changing, right? Your tongue is changing. She wants you to unglue the word so they can see how the different parts all work together, kind of like gears, right? Taking apart the gears, taking apart a toaster, all the different things work together. And then just humming things to hear the syllables. Yesterday we went to the Where did we go? To the to the library, right? So I'm going to walk the I'm going to walk the dog, right? So just getting them thinking about those syllables. Something else that my mom did when I was little, both syllable sounds as well as directional orientation, right? So we learn how the clock goes in order. There's certain directions that writing goes as well. So she used to write on our back, and we would have to think. So here's different parts of your brain, right? You're thinking about the code, the letter. You're thinking about the direction. Someone's touching your back and you can't see it, so that is that proprioception. So she would do a letter. We had to get the letter, and then she'd do multiple letters in a row, and we had to think of the word. So that's kind of the directional need and kind of that proprioception. In the Montessori school, we also, when any work was put back, we started on the left. Whether it was a race car track with cars, all the things started on the left. Just to show kids directional things, right? Things go in order. Our writing goes in order. Another thing we did in Montessori school, and she kind of talked about this a little bit too, is different things like pouring, pinching, poking, stirring, sticking your hand in something you can't see and feeling, oh, that's a butterfly, oh, that's a race car, just to get your mind working in lots of different directions. And then surrounding yourself in books. Like I was already saying, my 1-year-old is loving reading to herself, being read to. One thing too that I didn't learn this until just recently is the eye doctor always told me my kids were fine crossing midline. But then one teacher noticed after she asked them to draw the biggest circle they could ever draw, instead of going like this to draw a circle, they moved their body to draw a circle. So they were struggling to cross midline. So when they picked up an instrument and it says crescendo, they have to kind of play this note but look ahead at this note and be able to crescendo. When you're reading a book, if you're struggling with this word, you can't really look ahead to see how you're supposed to get excited, right? So this is how are you special question mark. But if you're trying to figure out how and are and you and special, and you're trying to decode the language, you can't go, how are you special? Because you're not even being able to look ahead. It's hard to cross midline. It's hard to look ahead when you're struggling with the code. So they would lose points in public school because they weren't adding enunciation, but they were struggling to decode the word and to cross midline. Same for tying your shoes, looking to the board and writing some notes down, holding that thought in your head. As you see it on the board, you hold it in your head. Now you have to put it on the paper. Where did I leave off? And then you get it written down. Then you got to go back to the board. Where did I leave off? So just that crossing midline both up and this way. And she ends with this quote, which I think is really cool, by Isaac Watts, page 321. It says, "By the art of reading, we can learn 1,000 things which our eyes can never see, in which our own thoughts would never have reached. We are instructed by books in the wisdom of ancient ages. By reading, we can sit at home and acquaint ourselves with what has been done in distant parts of the world." So that's why I latched onto this program, because it's giving my kids tools to be able to explore places they can never go through reading. Good luck to you.